Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome into the Loretta McNary Show. Life has a way of shifting the plan without warning, and sometimes those unexpected turns lead us exactly where we were meant to be. So today I'm joined by one of my favorite Hallmark stars, Tyler Hynes, starring in the new romantic comedy, I'll Be Seeing You. Hi, Tyler.
Good morning, Loretta. How are you?
Wonderful. So let me ask you this. So the movie I'll Be Seeing You, and it centers on an unexpected detour. What drew you to this story personally?
Well, the movie is a movie that I actually have produced with a good friend of mine, Orly Adelson, who is a veteran in this space. She's a woman I had a lot to learn from, and we really wanted to create a story that takes advantage of folks of a certain golden age and all that they had to offer in terms of wisdom and life, and put that center stage in one of these movies. And it's been a dream of mine for a long time, and it was the first thing I wanted to put in development at Hallmark. So yeah, that was the inspiration, was to try to take these actors that I've had the privilege of working with over the years and give them a place to really put them center stage and tell a beautiful story.
And you have definitely accomplished that. So this movie is blending romance with deeper life concern. And I'm not going to talk about that yet because I want people to watch. So what was it
Yeah.
about that concern? It's real life, right? It's real life happening in this movie. So what do you want people to walk away with after they watch this movie?
I mean, I think what would be lovely that's different from the usual sort of feelings of joy and optimism and romance is I hope people think of their own grandparents or folks in their lives who have been mentors to them, who've helped them gain perspective and wisdom. And I think if it does anything in addition to what we normally do here at Hallmark, hopefully it's that, is make you think of the loved ones in your life, that those days where you spend time with somebody and nothing else matters, somehow everything else melts away, and just being in their presence and sharing whatever that moment is becomes the sole interest. I think this movie might capture that feeling and maybe remind folks of times in their life where they've had that.
Absolutely. So was there a scene in the movie that challenged you creatively or emotionally? Because you are touching on a subject that we need to talk more about every day. So were you challenged, or was it something that's tugged on your own heart and reminded you how good it is, or like you just said, to take advantage of life every day?
There's an aspect to the character that I play, somebody who works at a retirement community. And one of the main elements is that I'm playing a character who has that occupation, and I've never played that character or seen that portrayed, as far as I can tell, on the network. But somebody who's in that position, much like a nurse or a police officer or a doctor, you end up seeing folks in circumstances that are somewhat fleeting moments. You have friendships with people who are in that latter stage of their life and eventually kind of move on as they do. And that's got to be a certain kind of experience, I would imagine. Somebody who does that occupation, I think it's a very noble and loving thing. If you can do that job with the kind of warmth and familiarity with those folks as it probably demands, and yet keep your heart intact at the other end of that, that's a pretty incredible thing and worthwhile telling a story about. And we don't really dwell on that so much in the movie. It's kind of hinted at with my character, and really only really plays a significant part of the conversation near the end of the movie when we understand his struggle or challenge throughout the movie. But it was something that I thought was a really important piece. And amongst all the fun and warmth and optimism and fun of the road trip, having that be a little element of his character, I think was important, given that people actually do this job and have to feel this way.
Wow, that's deep. So Hallmark is
Did that
known
make sense?
for
Halfway through that answer, I was thinking, am I even making a sentence right now? Did that make sense?
it's deep, and this subject is also deep, and which leads me to my next question. Hallmark is known
Yeah.
for movies that reach your heart, right? Usually it's romantic. This one reaches your heart too, but it's in a different way. So how did you approach your role as Mark in this film?
There are two people that kind of inspired this character. One of them is my best friend. His name is Mark, and so he got the name. And there's another person who really inspired him, who's actually a co-star of mine at this channel, at the Hallmark Channel. I've done some Hallmark movies with, and he inspired the character a lot in the sense that the character is one of those gentlemen who live in the moment, who's very, very present and is kind of got this enigmatic quality where he just sort of brings up the vibe and the energy one of those folks who are magnetic, where you just want to kind of be around them, but is very present, and that's kind of their superpower. And with every upside, there's usually a counterpart as to, like, can they plan long term? And that's Mark's character's sort of journey and why he is that way. And I didn't delve deep into the psychology of my friends, but definitely that inspired it. Is there's two folks who have that quality where they just, no matter where they are or what they're doing, they are forever present, and they're forever just magnetizing people into their orbit.
Yeah, and if there's one message I want people to walk away with from our conversation and the movie, is to be forever present. Put your phones down, stay in the moment. So where can we watch this beautiful movie?
We watch it on the Hallmark Channel Saturday, April 25th. 7/8/7 Central on Hallmark Channel. And I think for folks in Canada, they can watch it on the W channel, and on Hallmark Plus it'll be on the streaming app the next day.
Awesome. Can't wait to watch it. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for being our guest on the Loretta McNary Show. Hope you'll stop by often moving forward.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye for now. So Tyler has to go on. He has to share this wonderful movie, but it's different. It still includes the romance. It still touches your heart, but it also includes your mind on this go round. So make sure you're tuning in to Hallmark on Saturday, April 25th to watch I'll Be Seeing You. And on that note, I'll be seeing you shortly. So don't go too far. We'll be right back.
I'm worried about Mom.
Mom? She's fine. These the ones, right, Mom?
Yeah, groundlings.
Sweet potatoes.
Daddy, it's salty.
Some things come with age.
And some don't.
Early detection of Alzheimer's can lead to better care for your loved one. Learn the early warning signs at 10signs.org.
Welcome back to the Loretta McNary Show. So there are champions we celebrate for what they achieve, and then there are those champions we remember for what they have overcome. Today's guest, Val Whiting, is both of those. From leading at Stanford University to becoming a two-time NCAA champion and competing in the WNBA, she built a career defined by excellence, discipline, and undeniable talent. But behind those trophies, behind all those titles, she was facing a battle. Everybody, welcome to the Loretta McNary Show, Val Whiting. Hi there.
Hi.
I am so inspired by your story. We did a lot of research, and I'm telling you, your story needs to be shouted from the mountaintops, because it's not only athletes who go through this, but a lot of people. I mean, I went through it, right? I went through performing and getting the accolades and then going home and wondering what just happened, or am I deserving of it? So my first question to you is, before the championships and the professional career, who were you at your core?
At my core, I was a shy, awkward ninth grader who had just learned how to play basketball and only played because my math teacher asked me to come out, and had no exposure to sports. Only sport I played was tag, and playing basketball gave me my voice and gave me courage to speak out and to be myself.
That is so interesting. And did I read correctly that you're like 6'3"?
Yeah.
So I'm sure everybody was pushing you to basketball. Like, that's the only thing tall people can do. And tall is relative, right?
Yeah, that's funny. No one really pushed both my parents played basketball, and neither one of them said, go out for basketball. Only my math teacher in 7th grade saw that I was tall and said, "Oh, why don't you come try basketball?" But I think it's, when you think about women's sports back then, it wasn't as big as it was now.
You say you were shy growing up. So how did you manage being a part of a team, and especially one where I think you were a power forward when you were in the WNBA and in college? So how did you merge those two, extroverted lifestyle being an introvert?
Yeah, it's interesting. My on-court personality is totally different, and I still am an introvert. When I got on the court, and a lot of players when on the court, it's a different persona. You're aggressive, you're calling for the ball, you're being a leader, you're telling people where to go. And it just came out of me. No one ever taught it. It's just something that I developed by playing, and I had parents that believed in me and pushed me in a positive way. But yeah, the different personalities, it's crazy. If my personality that was on the court, off the court, I'd probably be like in jail or something, because you're just so aggressive and so blunt and, obviously respectful, but it's just a different vibe.
A whole different vibe. So when did you know that basketball, that you were having issues? Maybe you love the accolades and all that, and everybody else seemed to just enjoy it 24/7. But at what point did you say, you know what, this is not communicating well with my spirit or my soul? I'm having problems separating. Was it depression or anxiety that you first started feeling? And at what point did that start happening?
The point that I felt that it affected my career, because I struggled with depression earlier when I got cut from the Olympic team. But what it really affected my career when I stepped away from basketball is when I played in the WNBA. In '99, my first season, I was a rookie at 27. And I don't even know what prompted it or why I spiraled in terms of getting depression. But when I was in the W, I was on and off the injured reserve. And there would be times when a coach wanted to put me in the game and I would shake my head, no, I don't want to go in. And then I ended up taking the subsequent season off for depression, the whole season off, 2000, because the game that I loved so much was making me sad. And a lot of it stemmed from I didn't have the mental skills, the sports psychology skills, and tools to battle perfectionism, bouncing back from mistake, being over analytical, being too hard on myself. And I just spiraled and it just got pretty bad.
Wow, I was at a city current event here and they had another WNBA player. She was out of Tennessee. I wish I could think of her name right now. And she also was saying the same thing, that she was winning on the court, but when she wasn't playing, she was battling depression, all the negative messages. And so what do you think, what kind of tools do you provide now through your organization, through your company, that weren't provided for you, that have been key for you to recover and to overcome all of that?
Well, the first thing is then I kept it all inside. I didn't have anyone to talk to, and I was truly embarrassed. And I didn't even tell anyone that I took a season off for depression until 2020. Everybody thought it was because they put in the papers personal reasons. So first step is acknowledging and getting the help you need by speaking to someone, not just holding it in. Second, things that I do now with female athletes is that we do visualization, self-talk. A lot of athletes, including myself, we talk to ourselves like we're our worst critics, not our best friends. So what's your thought life, your self-talk? What's that like? How to bounce back from mistakes instead of holding them on, how to get a mistake ritual or bounce back routine so you're not holding on to mistakes, and letting go of being perfect. And that's the hardest thing I've seen with athletes that I work with. They want it to be perfect. They want the perfect game. They want the perfect race. They don't want to win imperfectly. They want everything to be, in place. And that's how we are as a society. Everyone's best face forward. No one's ever showing the flaws that we have. That when I work with athletes, that's one of the things we work on, is letting go of perfection and just accepting your performance, what it is, good, bad, or ugly.
I still want people to understand, especially for those who are battling in silence like you did, and so many other, not only athletes, but just professionals in whatever field. We make a mistake and then we beat ourselves up on that mistake. So being on the court when everything is live and it's going, say you miss a shot or you didn't get a rebound or something, what's in your mind? Are you beating yourself up while you move on to the next thing? Do you get stuck there? And then how do you get unstuck?
Yeah, most athletes don't have, I call it a reset routine or mistake ritual. Turn the ball over, we're still thinking about the last turnover while we're running down the court or we're in the next possession. And what I teach is a reset routine. First of all, you have to have a word that you say that means something to you. I've had people use confident, free, carefree, I'm strong. It could be a phrase as well. And also do some kind of physical motion, whether it's brush off or clap. I've had athletes wipe the bottom of their shoes with their hands and then take a deep breath, and it's forgotten. That's the key. But the thing is, you have to do it in practice first. Just like anything, your brain needs reps, right? You're building new habits. If your old habit was to hold on to your mistake when you make it, then when push comes to shove, that's what you're going to do. But when we start developing new habits, building new neural pathways by doing it in practice, then it becomes second nature in the game. So that's the key, is not just, I'm going to try this next game I play. It's not going to work. I'll tell you right now, it's not going to work. Do it in practice, get good at it, and then apply it in the games.
At what point in your career did you decide, you know what, I know if I'm going through this, there possibly are other athletes going through it, and you decided to create Coach Val. Tell me about that process, and what was your inspiration for creating your company?
It started during the pandemic. I was working for a nonprofit and I got laid off, and I went to TikTok. I was like, I have all this time. And my son was helping me. Like, Mom, why don't you make a TikTok account? I was like, yeah, sure. I'll do it for female athletes and all things around women's sports. And I noticed that I was getting a lot of questions about sports psychology, and kids would ask me, my confidence is down when a coach takes me out. What do I do? Or I have anxiety before a game. And I was getting a lot of those questions like, there's a need for this. I've always been interested in sports psychology just because of what I went through as an athlete. And I said, let me get more training. So I went and got some certifications. And then I said, I still don't know enough. Then I went back to school and got my master's in sport and performance psychology. And so I've been working with athletes individually as well as teams since 2020. And I changed the name of my business to Mentally Strong Her because I wanted it to represent what I want female athletes to come out from working with me and from using the tools that I give them. And I don't want female athletes to go through what I went through. So that's why I'm really passionate about this. And I also know that working with a one-on-one coach is expensive. So I created an academy group community for female athletes that's really accessible. So female athletes can work together, learn mental skills, learn from each other, learn from me, and see that they're not the only ones going through it at an extremely affordable price. So that's what I wanted to do, is to get to as many athletes as possible instead of, one at a time when I work with them privately.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. So how do you help athletes or your clients understand that their worth is not really tied to their performance or winning all the time? That it is you're valuable because you're a person. So how do you help them when they're driven to win all the time and have that perfect game?
Yeah, we do something called being present moment focused when we're in the game. So they're not focused on the outcome, because athletes want, you want to win. I want to score 20 points, or I want to win this tennis match. And we start focusing on the outcome and putting more pressure on ourselves about the outcome. I bring them more back to the purpose, the present, the purpose, and their journey, and enjoying the journey that they're in instead of worrying about the outcome. And that makes it more enjoyable. Now, when it comes to releasing who you are from your sport, that takes a lot of work, because and that's something I struggled with when I retired from, I was basketball and basketball was me. And that what helps with that is a lot of work around identity journaling, thinking about taking that 30,000 foot view of your sport and yourself, thinking about long-term, writing about who you are outside of basketball or track or cross country. I do an exercise called the confidence resume, where they write down everything that's amazing about them, and they always constantly look back on that when they're not feeling great about themselves. So there's a lot of different things, but identity work is, I think, some of the toughest work that I do.
I agree. Ooh. I agree. I even wrote a book about it because I was forced through an accident. I was walking and broke my leg, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't have anywhere to go. I couldn't go anywhere. So I was forced to do the internal work. And let me tell you, it was difficult, but I'm so happy. I'm so much stronger, more confident, more impactful. Once I've done that work, I can show up more authentically. So I need to have another conversation with you on this, because I know it will help anybody, because we all want to, like you said, we watching somebody's best Instagram reel, comparing it to our worst day, to their made up day or real day, and think we're losing or we're not as great as they are. So it is really important to have the mental check-ins and then seek professional help or hire a coach. But you got to do something. It doesn't just go away because you think you ignore it, it'll go away. It doesn't, does it? Do you think it just goes away if you don't?
No, it does. It's kind of like that injury you ignore, and you're like, I'm not going to go to the doctor. And then one day it really flares up and you go to ER. So it's like that when you ignore the work that you're supposed to do on yourself. And then there's a blow up, and then it's all hands on deck. So no, definitely cannot just ignore it.
So where can we find you?
I guess the best way is Instagram, and my handle is I am Coach Val.
Okay. I'm just so grateful to have you as my guest. And I did my research and I'm like, she should be doing keynotes all over the place because being so vulnerable and transparent was something that most people don't want to talk about. And especially women and African American women, we weren't taught that, right? It's
Yeah.
culturally, you just don't talk about mental health or your bad day. So I'm so glad that you have decided that helping people is more important than what your ego is telling you. Thank you so much for being my guest on the Loretta McNary Show. So we do have another segment coming up, so don't go too far. There will be more Loretta McNary Show coming up. Hello, everyone. Thanks for watching the Loretta McNary Show. Our next guest is an international dance pop artist who has been commanding stages since childhood. Yes, she was discovered at 6. She started touring at 8 and later landed a Billboard Top 20 hit. She has built a global presence with high energy performances and music that connects across cultures and countries. Her latest single is Finding Rhythm, and it is already gaining major traction worldwide. Everybody, welcome to the Loretta McNary Show for the very first time, but not the last time, Ashley Paul. Hi, Ashley.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Me too. So let's just jump right in there. So
Let's
you
do
were
it.
discovered at the age of 6 years old. You were touring by 8. What did that level of early exposure teach you about discipline and identity before most of us even knew how to tie our shoes at that age?
I learned about schedules, discipline, choices, bad choices, how not to make them, how to take care of your health. I even learned at a very, very young age as well, because you don't want to get sick for a show. You have an
Mhm.
audition or a show coming up. Can't always go to the sleepover, but you have to decide what's more important to you. And this was who I was, so it wasn't even a question.
Okay, so your parents saw something in you early and they didn't have to push you because I guess at 6 years old, you'd already determined that was who you were. Because I know little girls, we make decisions early and
We
fast.
do.
So
We really
you
do.
knew this is what you want.
We do. And my parents were wonderful. They guided me and helped me, nurtured me, took me to ballet lessons, tap lessons. My dad used to pick me up at school, excuse me, and he would sit there and talk to the manager at the ballet school while I had my ballet lessons and my tap lessons. And then he would take me home and we would go through a Wendy's drive-through, which probably wasn't a very good idea, but that was like sometimes he would do that. I think he did it more for himself. Anyway, but my
Yeah.
parents were wonderful. And I think that knowing what you want so early in life, it's definitely a gift, but like anything, it becomes a challenge navigating
Yeah.
longevity, being able to have longevity and having to grow as an artist in many ways isn't easy.
So your music carries, and I watch videos, your music carries both energy and emotion. How do you intentionally balance vulnerability in high-packed dance productions?
Well, it's kind of been an evolution from my heart. It was a very authentic evolution. It wasn't an intentional, go to the drawing board and come up with the idea. I just started to write for myself after When Boys Cry, after my Billboard hit, when I was more of a young adult into womanhood. And the things that I was writing were very emotional and true to experiences I was having. And I'm a very
That says a lot. So that's a
okay.
great segue into my next question. So
Yeah.
when Boys Cry started, it charted early in your career. So
Yes.
looking back, what did that moment unlock for you professionally and personally?
It was an incredible opportunity. I mean, that was like they say the break. That was like my big break, I guess.
Mhm.
It put me all over the map. It allowed me entry into countries all over the world. I mean, they were playing my song in Amsterdam and the UK and France and Germany and Switzerland and the US. And it was an unbelievable opportunity. And I had never anticipated it, to be honest with you, because I had gone between, I had loved disco. That was in my soul. But I had gone between opportunities to do disco touring shows and then to do off Broadway. And I did a couple lead roles at the Kennedy Center. And
Mhm.
I just kept going anywhere I could
Yeah.
sing and perform. And so when the opportunity came for When Boys Cry, I couldn't, and then what happened, I didn't even expect it. I just met this producer, Joel Diamond. We went in, we did the song, and it was like Billboard, and that was it. It was like, I always say, a blur to the Billboard charts. That's what it was like.
That is a beautiful story. I love that. So let's talk about your latest single, Finding Rhythm. And it
Thank you.
feels more like a song title. What does finding rhythm mean in your life right now? Because it's not just a title, it is a message. Because I love it just saying
Thank
finding
you.
rhythm.
Finding your balance and your passion and your purpose. I mean, as women, we have a lot of noise, and we have to play a lot of roles that go beyond our professional role. And so it's about being able to have the ability to see what it is you want to create for the rest of your life. And that was kind of where I was at in my life. I came back to writing and performing in a big way in 2018, and then it kind of evolved. However, I didn't expect it to evolve this much. but to be truthful, I didn't really think about will it or won't it. I just keep going. I can't stop.
Right.
That's my whole thing. I can't stop. I don't know where I'm going. I just keep going.
And that as an artist and as talent and people who have the privilege and honor to do the work they love every day, then that's who we are, and that's part of the territory. So you have been named an artist to watch by major publications. How do you stay grounded while your visibility continues to rise and you're still evolving and we're still becoming at every age? So we never truly arrive, but we're better. So what keeps you grounded with all that visibility?
It's the work, because the work has to be good. It has to be timely. It has to be creative. It has to be innovative. It has to be fresh. You go in the studio and you want to make sure every single note is perfect. All of these things create, what's the right vocabulary word? It's like an amalgamation of trying to be as good as you can be.
So I self-published all three of my books. And this third book, I promise you cannot tell I'm an indie writer, because that book is leaps and bounds all over the world, literally and figuratively. But let me ask you this question. When we're listening to your music for the first time, what do you want us to feel? And more importantly, what would you want us to do next, having been inspired by your music?
When you hear my music, I hope that you feel joy, and I hope that you feel inspired by the messages in the songs, because they range from inspirational to playful, but everything is always a way to uplift another person. And if I can do that with my music, like if you can wake up in the morning and say, oh, I want to go hear an Ashley Paul song because that's going to make me feel so good, I'm going to go make my coffee and dance before I go to work. If that's my contribution in this world, and hopefully have a roof over my head while I do it, I'm done.
We're winning. We're winning. That's what I say. We're winning.
Right? I love it.
Winning.
We're winning.
Yes, we're always winning. You just have to have that mindset and keep your thoughts. I'm a fan now because of your tenacity. You're so driven and loving and kind, and great things are going to happen to you even more. So where can we find you?
My music is definitely on YouTube. You can also go to my website where there's links to all my videos.
So Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your sound with us today.
Thank
you remind us that when you stay true to your rhythm and create a life and legacy, that helps not only move you, but it helps move other people. So thank you so much for being our guest today. And to our audience, thank you so much for watching, because without you, I could not do what I do, interview the people I interview, and live this life every day. So think positive, dream big dreams, help someone along the way, live like you believe, and we will see you soon. Goodbye for now, everybody.
Your life lived today.